Hey, Literary Wind Down is back. It's been a year, over a year. I took 2024 off and we are back with a banger. We are back with S.A. Cosby. I'm so excited. Um, hey y'all, come on in, come on in. It's been a minute. So for y'all who haven't been here before, if you're winding down with anything, put it in the comments. I'm winding down. I'm excited to share that. But let me know what cocktail, water, whatever. Yes, love the music choice. I kind of keep turning it on and off so I don't get flagged by Instagram. Hey, Casey. So yeah, I took a year off. Hey, Raymond from Literary Wind Down. So we're back. I can't promise you I'm going to do a whole bunch of them, but I'm going to do a few. So we're waiting for Sean to join. And I'm super excited about this conversation. Thank you. Inbox me. I'll tell you where I got the sweater from. DM me. Hello, 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 y'all. Come on in. Hey, Shelly. Can't be playing. Right, Raymond. That's why I turned it off where they like flag me. The free party. Yes, the free party. You're here early. So I'll let you know ahead of time. Hey, I'll let you guys know ahead of time. I'm not finished reading King of Ashes, but I will tell you I am hooked. Oh, there's S.A. Cosby. There he is. Honey. Okay, Instagram. It's going to let us be great tonight. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Give me a thumbs up.
Hey,
Hello there. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm late. I was trying to get on my computer and my computer doesn't recognize my Instagram info.
You
So
are
I'm on
not
my
late.
phone. So I'm
No,
just
you're fine. I'm on my phone, so you're fine. You're not
okay.
late. I was just chatting with the people. I haven't had a literary wind down since 2023. So for you to be up here with me to bring it back is a big deal. Okay, you already winding down.
Yes, I am drinking. This is whiskey and this is bourbon and Coke, and the bourbon is Uncle Nearest bourbon, which is a wonderful. I
Yes.
mean, they haven't paid me anything, but I buy a lot of their bourbon. Wonderful company, run by an African American family. So this is my
Miss
wine
Fawn
down.
Weaver. Yes, Uncle Nearest.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
So I am winding down with okay because I'm on a 28-day fast, no alcohol. So I'm doing a non-alcoholic sangria, and it's by a Black woman. It's called Huzzy Smart Sips, and it's actually really good. It says it gives you the buzz without the fuzz. So,
well, well, I will get a buzz for the both of us because
thank you.
this
I
is
appreciate it.
delicious.
I'm later. I needed it like several weeks ago, but I'm gonna have to wait. So cheers. So you guys, welcome to Literary Wind Down. I am thrilled to have Mr. S.A. Cosby here with us. Sean, um, what can I say? He is a New York Times bestselling author, award-winning on Barack Obama's favorite book list, just the king of all kings in the thriller world. And we met at Thriller Fest.
Yes.
We did in 2023. And it's so funny because when you posted, you said, "Oh, I have some new best friends." I said, "Oh, he said it. I didn't say it. He is now my best friend." So welcome.
No,
How
it
are you
was so
doing?
wonderful. I'm good. It was so wonderful meeting you. You were so kind. It was so much fun hanging out at Thriller Fest, one of my favorite festival events to go to. I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. I obviously am gearing up for the release of King of Ashes in June. Doing a lot of like what we gonna call it pre-marketing planning and discussions and where I'm going and where I'm going to be. And it's funny because 5 years ago, 6 years ago, nobody would have spit on me if I was on fire talking about books. And so now it's like everybody wants me everywhere all the
So let's
time, you know. So
talk about that,
it's a bit of
explore
a
that.
challenge.
Listen, I was going to ask you that, to tell us about, how you started, and, what was your journey like? I've heard this, but some people in the audience may have not heard this.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I'm from southeastern Virginia. I like to say I'm a big old country boy. Or as one of my friends said when I was a kid, I'm a big old nerd that could fight. But so my whole life I've always I've always loved stories. I grew up in a house full of readers. When I was a kid, my mom and my brother lived with my grandmother, and so we lived in an area in the South where we were in my grandma's house. My aunt was across the yard. My uncle was down the road. So we were all kind of united in this one place. And so everybody read. My grandmother, excuse me, my grandmother read romance novels and true story magazines. So for the folks out there that may not know, True Story was basically a pulp magazine, like it was soap operas in magazine form.
Okay.
My grandmother read those. My mother was a big reader. She read historical novels, biographies. I remember one of the first books that I remember her reading was the biography of Peter the Great. So she was into Greek mythology, and so
Mm-hmm.
she was really sort of not fiction, but sort of the historical, artistic aesthetics of that. My aunt, who I love dearly, was a big horror fan. She gave my first Stephen King novel, which scared me shitless. Oh my God.
Which one was
I
it?
remember she gave it to me. Salem's Lot.
Oh, yeah.
Salem's Lot. And she gave it to me. And she told me, she said, well, she asked me, she's like, you gonna be able to read this? You gonna be okay? Because I was 13. And she's like, I don't want your mom to get mad at me for giving you a scary book. And I was like, I'll be fine, no worries. And I read that book. And then for the next 2 weeks, I slept with a popsicle stick crucifix under my pillow, just in case Ralphie Glick comes scratching at the door. Um, and so my uncle read detective novels, like the early, like he read everything from Raymond Chandler to Chester Himes to Ross McDonald to Dashiell Hammett, Mickey Spillane. It was so funny because I was a kid. He would give me those books, and they had really lurid covers. Usually a very buxom woman in a state of undress was on the cover, and my mom would make me cut the covers off because she's like, I don't want you to read. I don't want you to look at those covers. They're going to corrupt you. And I didn't have the heart to tell her, in the books is way worse. The covers is the
Then the
least of your
cover.
issues. But but I always read a lot and I always wanted to write. I wrote my first story when I was 7 years old. My mom used to read me bedtime stories, like everybody's mom, and she's passed away now. But she used to tell the story that I would complain about the plot holes in bedtime stories, like with the Three Little Pigs. I would complain like, why didn't they just build all the houses out of bricks in the first place? Why did they mess around with sticks
Oh,
and
so you were
straw?
critiquing
And so,
early on.
yeah, yeah. And so my mom challenged me. She said, "Well, write your own story then." And I did, and I wrote the story about these I wrote a story about these spacefaring gnomes who land in our backyard. And it's a terrible story. But when my mom realized I had written it by myself with no help from anyone else, she was so impressed. And I remember the look on her face when she realized that I had written it. And I think I've been chasing that look the rest of my life. I love that look on a reader's face when they are absorbing something I created. And so fast forward, years go by, I go to college, I have to drop out because I run out of money. And I just kept writing. I just wrote, I educated myself about writing. I bought manuals about writing. I bought Stephen King's on writing. I bought William
Mm-hmm.
Goldman's on how to write a screenplay. I just kept educating myself about how to write. And so a little bit by little, I started getting a little notoriety with short stories. Um, I started out wanting to write horror fiction, but nobody wanted my horror fiction. And so I had a friend who was a belly dancer. True story. She was a belly dancer, and she went to New York City and did a performance. And after the performance, she happened to walk into this bar in the East Village, which is still there. It's a bar called Shade. It's on Sullivan and McDougal Street. And the guy who was bartending that night was a guy named Todd Robinson. And for anybody who doesn't know, Todd Robinson, in addition to being a bartender, was the editor and publisher of a magazine called Thug Lit. And Thug Lit was the magazine for all the stories that wouldn't fit in Ellery Queen or Alfred Hitchcock. He made a place for people who wrote hardboiled stories and rural noir. like I like to say, all us misfits who didn't have a home. And
Mm-hmm.
so when she came back, she told me about that, and she said, this guy pays. He pays like $50, and I really needed that $50. And so I wrote my first crime story, and I sent it in to him, and he published it and got my $50. And then sort of that just clicked for me. It's like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be writing crime stories. So fast forward a couple more years, I write my first novel called My Darkest Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I get an agent, and for a year, the agent tried to sell the book, and unfortunately, he couldn't. And he came to me and he says, this isn't working out. I think we need to go our separate ways. I got the "it's not you, it's me" in agent form,
Oh, so he,
and
oh yeah, okay.
and so after that, I put Darkest Prayer aside, and I was kind of mad. I was
Yeah.
kind of angry. And I watched this. I'll never forget it. I was sitting there on the couch, and this thing came on PBS, American Masters, and it was about Bruce Springsteen. And I love Bruce Springsteen. I love music in general,
Yes.
but he was talking about when he got his big break, when he wrote Born to Run, and he said, "I'll never forget." He said, "It wasn't that I had nothing to lose." He said, "I had nothing. I had nothing. I had nowhere to go but up." And I remember thinking, that's where I'm at right now. I have nothing to lose. So I'm going to write the book that I want to
Mm-hmm.
write. And so I began work on what eventually became Blacktop Wasteland. And in the meantime, I was able to sell Darkest Prayer on my own to a small publisher out of Maryland, who's still my good friend, Austin and Denise Camacho, who run Intrigue Publishing, really great folks out of Columbia, Maryland. Anyway, so as that's happening, I save my money, and I find out about this big festival called BoucherCon. And it's a festival that moves around the country. It's the World Mystery Festival, basically,
Mm-hmm.
in North America. And anyway, I go down there, and I'm really going down there to promote Darkest Prayer. I wasn't trying to find a new agent or anything. And I got on this panel. A lot of people have heard this part of the story. I got on this panel about Southern crime fiction with Ace Atkins, Alex Segura, Stephanie Post, and my friend Eric Pruitt. And we were talking about Southern crime fiction and Southern fiction in general, and what I believe are the four pillars of Southern fiction, which are sex, religion, race, and class. And so anyway, at the end of the panel, this lady gets up. Now, mind you, we had said some stuff about the South. We were talking about the real deal, about what it means to be a
Yes.
Southerner. And this lady gets up and she says, well, I feel like you guys were just really hard in the South. It's not all that bad. Like the antebellum period, I know it was difficult, but think of the fashion and the etiquette of that time. And you could hear a pin drop in that room. Oh my God, nobody said anything. And then my friend Eric, who I love to death, but is an instigator, he said, hey, Sean, you want to respond to that? And I said, I'd love to respond to that. So I made a joke. I said, ma'am, I love a bustle skirt as much as the next person, but the antebellum period wasn't just hard for some people. So she got mad and left. And as I was leaving the panel was dispersing. Guy comes up to me in the hallway. I'll never forget this. I was carrying a bag because I had books in it that I was giving away to people, and I also had books that I wanted to get signed. And where I'm from, somebody run up on you from behind, I drop my bag, because these are rated E for everybody. And so
Yeah.
he comes up to me. He, he comes up to me and he says, "Hi, my name is Josh Gessler. I'm a literary agent. I love what you were talking about on stage, and I love the way you handled that racist lady. Here's my card. If you don't have representation, I'd love to talk to you." And I went home and I finished Blacktop Wasteland. And after a couple of weeks of hemming and hawing, I sent it in to him. That was November of 2018. He signed me as a client in December of 2018, and he sold Blacktop Wasteland with an option for another book to Flatiron Books in February of 2019. So after 20 years of trying to be a writer, in 3 months, I was a published author, and so that's sort of my story.
Wow. It's just so amazing. I mean, it's just wow. And did I hear you correctly in another interview? You said my darkest prayer was rejected quite a few
Oh,
times.
oh yeah. My Darkest Prayer was rejected 63 times. 63 times. It got to the point that my former agent, he would email me, and I'm like, hey, you can stop emailing me. Like, just, you ain't got to tell me. Like, I get it. They don't want it. And I got rejections that was so interesting now
Mm.
to look back on them. Because there were people, I'm not going to name the editors or the publishers, but there were editors who said, this is a really well-written book. You have an incredible talent for dialogue, and, you're a really talented writer. We just don't think there's a market for African-American led crime fiction in the South. Nobody's
Oh,
interested in that. Nobody wants to read it. And I was like, okay, all right. And so now, fast forward almost 10 years now, and it's like every time I open Publishers Weekly, I'm a comp for somebody. Like, oh, we want Blacktop Wasteland set in Kansas, or we want a, combination of Razorblade Tears and whatever, set here. And so I think, there was a market for it. They just didn't know how to promote it. So
And that was one of my questions, about the market for it and about the readership, and then having more authors of color, especially Black men, Black women in the space, right? Because when I was at
Mhm.
Thriller Fest, I was just kind of like, wow, they are here, but there could be many more.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think one of the things that I take to heart about whatever success I've had is that I hope and I see it doing it that it the rising tide lifts all boats. And so if S.A. Cosby can get on the Daily Show, on Tonight Show, on Tamron Hall, then here's another African American man or woman, or Latino man or woman, or an LGBTQ
Mm-hmm.
person, a trans person, a non-binary person. That there is no barrier to selling books except the barriers that publishers put in their minds, and in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about you said your 4 pillars for Southern, because your books have all these pillars. The first book I read by you was Razorblade Tears. And I said to myself, what the hell am I reading? Literally, I was like, what the hell am I reading? And then I read All the Sinners Bleed, and then I went back and read Blacktop Wasteland, right? But I want to show you. Look what I picked up when I was in London.
oh wow. So Flatiron re-released it and allowed me to do a soft edit on it, and I got to write an introduction. And that introduction, I'll tell you, it's funny. I read that introduction now, I get a little choked up because, you know, um, that book and those characters, they're my first friends. As far as a writer, they're the first characters I created, and I love them dearly. I'd love to go back to that world. Nathan Waymaker and Skunk. I'd love to see what they're doing, but that book was the first. I didn't think I could write a novel before I wrote
Mm-hmm.
that book. I really didn't. I thought I would just be a short story writer. I was like, I'll just be the crime version of Raymond Carver or John Cheever or something. And uh, my friend Todd, who's a friend of mine now, I'm still friends with Todd Robinson. I remember him telling me, he says, you can write a book. He said, you're doubting yourself. He said, all a book is a bunch of short stories that are connected. And that kind of was like, yeah, I guess you got a point. I remember I was in New York visiting him, and I went back to the hotel room and I wrote the first 2 chapters of that book longhand.
Mm-hmm.
And that book will always have a special place in my heart because it was the book that gave me the confidence to say, okay, I can do this. I'm not as good as I can be
Mm-hmm.
yet, but I can do this. This is within the realm of my capabilities. And I think that's an important thing for writers to realize, that you can do this. I think I have a friend, Jordan Harper, is a really good friend of mine, amazing writer himself, wrote Everybody Knows, She Rides Shotgun. For me, one of the finest crime writers working today. And he said to me many times, I used to be in interviews, I would be very self-deprecating, and I'm like, oh, it's no big deal, whatever, whatever, I'm just a writer. And Jordan, he pulled me aside one time. He says, stop doing that, because what you do is special. What I do is special. If everybody could do it, everybody would do
Right.
it, and they can't.
Yeah.
And he said, own that, accept it. And then it was not too long after that, I saw this interview with the comic book writer Alan Moore, who I'm a big fan of, wrote The Watchmen and stuff. And he said, I'm paraphrasing, he said, writers, we're the myth makers. And what a myth is the way society either sees itself or the way society thinks it should be. Take that seriously. Everybody knows somebody who's read a book that changed their lives. What
Mm-hmm.
we do is important. We're not just entertainers, and I take that to heart. I have that on a note above my desk, and so it's very important to me to sort of realize that. I think your first duty as a writer is to
Yeah.
entertain, but I think your second duty, or is right behind it, is to make people think. And I, even in my books like Darkest Prayer, which is a little more salacious, a little more pulpy than some of my other stuff, I still want you to think. I still want to touch you. I want you to be in that space and think of new ideas. But at the same time, I want to tell a good story too. Stephen King said that. He said, nobody's gonna care what you're talking about if your story's not good. So story is paramount. But then under that are all the things, the subtextual things that you want to do as a writer.
Yeah, your book definitely make you think. I mean, like All the Sinners Bleed. It's just like, with everything that's going on, you're looking at policing in America, you're always tackling these things that we are actually experiencing present day, right? But I think we talked about this before when we say it's too violent. It's too violent. And you made a comment of like, well, what do you mean it's too violent? This is the world that we live in. Can you talk a little bit about that when people say like, oh, this is too violent? This is really something
Yeah,
that
yeah.
could happen, would happen.
It's so funny when people tell me my books are
Mm-hmm.
too violent. I'm like, well, look out the window.
Yeah.
We live in a violent world. America was founded in blood and fire. The American ethos is violence. It's the cowboy with the six shooter. It's the gangster with the Tommy gun. It's the vigilante taking law in his or her hands. America is steeped in violence, and so to not to not sort of represent that is to be dishonest. And for me, the one thing I do above all things when I write is tell the truth. I have a tattoo on my arm that says that writers tell lies to find the truth. And I think that if you're not being honest about the story you're trying to tell, then people can feel it. That falseness, that fakeness, that phoniness will ring through. I always say, if you think my books are too violent, read a historical book, read an American history book, read about Nat Turner, read about Tulsa, Oklahoma, read about the Trail of Tears, read about Chicago in the 20s.
Yes.
Violence is as American as apple pie, and to shrink away from that, I think, is to be disingenuous.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. So let's talk about where we're going. Well, so give us an update if you can before I get into King of Ashes. Razor Blade Tears, Blacktop Wasteland, where
Yeah.
movies, what's going on? Yes. I love the
Okay.
story you told me.
Yeah. So, so Raised by Tears is being produced by Jerry Bruckheimer Productions.
I
It
mean,
was
come
at
on. You
Paramount,
just
but
tell
now
the
it's.
story that you didn't have $50 and now, I mean, you just talked about you didn't have $50 and now Jerry Bruckheimer. Seriously?
Okay. I'll tell the story really
This
quick. So
story is amazing. I
when we
heard it
got
and I love it.
approached, we got approached to have a discussion about the film rights for Razor Blade Tears, and my agent Josh couldn't be on the call. He had an emergency, and so I was on the call by myself. So it's me on Zoom with two producers, and then Jerry Bruckheimer's personal assistant, and then Jerry Bruckheimer, who, like, his background is his window in Malibu, and my background is the 4x4s and cinder blocks that I made my bookcase out of. So anyway, we're talking, and you go into these meetings, and they want your book, so they're going to tell you, you're the best thing since sliced bread. And so, like I like to say, they like to tell you, they'll talk to you like your fart smell like cotton candy. And so eventually, Mr. Bruckheimer raises his hand like this, puts a finger up, says, "Sean, Jerry." I'm like, "Hey, I know who you are. I've seen Top Gun." And he says to me,
Yeah.
"How much money is it going?" He said, "Let's get to brass tacks. How much money is it going to take for us to be in business together?" I didn't have I was not prepared for that. So I took my cell phone and I put it under my desk and I surreptitiously text my agent and I said, "They want to know how much money we want." And he says, "Here, give them this number. They'll never go for it. We'll negotiate. We'll meet in the middle. We'll come up, they'll come down, and we'll meet in the middle. We'll negotiate." I'm like, "Okay." So I say to Mr. Bruckheimer, "Well, Mr. Bruckheimer, I don't think we can be in business for anything less than blankety 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 blank." That joke didn't blink. He's like, "Let's sign it. Let's do it." I was like, "Oh God, we should have asked for more."
That is awesome.
So yeah, that is still in production. They got a great directing writer duo attached to it, Trayvon Free and Martin Rowe, who won an Oscar a few years ago for a short film called Between Two Distant Strangers, an amazing short film. They have written an incredible script. Now they moved it from Paramount to Apple Film, so it's still going to be a theatrical release. We're just waiting for Apple to come on board and give us a budget and start casting folks. So that's with Razor Blade Tears. That's going to be a theatrical release. Blacktop Wasteland is in discussions right now with various studios to be a limited run series on TV, on streaming. And then Darkest Prayer is still in talks to be a movie, a streaming movie with studios. We haven't nailed down a studio yet. All the Sinners Bleed is with Netflix, and it's going to be a limited series on Netflix. The co-writer of Black Panther, Joe. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name. But he's going to be the showrunner. So they're establishing a really good team around that right now.
How,
Doing really great things with it. It's moving full steam ahead. Um, and I'm really excited to see what happens with that. And then, as a lot of folks know, King of Ashes was also optioned by Amblin and Higher Ground Productions, which is President and Mrs. Obama's production company. And that also is going to be a Netflix, but that is going to be, they're looking at that as a series, as a long-term series, at least a 3-season series. So,
wow. I mean, seriously, that is like amazing. I mean, so many blessings. I mean, everyone in the audience is going crazy. I'm just now I gotta sit down and think about who I want to be in the cast. Like, is it as if it's my choice? Who I would like to see, as if I have a. Oh, that is like awesome. I know you have some ideas, but anyway, let's get to King of Action. Tell
all
me
right.
about this book. Um, First thing I want to know is what inspired you to write the book. And you have a thing with funeral homes, right? Because
Yeah, so I'm gonna move over and plug my phone in because it's about to die. So
okay,
let me just grab my
every
charger
time.
real quick. Y'all see behind the scenes here of of the
Listen.
entertainment process.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
so yeah,
You're a
so
father?
hello.
Okay, now we're fuzzy. Let me see. Can y'all see him okay? Because he's a little fuzzy on my end. Oh, now we're clear.
Okay, all right. So King of Ashes is the story of the Carruthers family. Oldest brother Roman, middle sister Nevaeh, baby brother Dante, and their father Keith. And the family owns a crematory, which is a little bit different than a funeral home. I used to work at one, but I have experience with crematories as well. And that crematory is situated in a made up city called Jefferson Run, Virginia. And as the book opens, Roman actually doesn't live in Virginia anymore. He's in Atlanta living his best life.
Yes.
He's a financial advisor to the stars, to athletes, and think of him as the person who helps Ludacris with his money. And so he gets a call at the beginning of the book to come home because their dad's been in an accident and he's in a coma. And so when he gets home, he finds out that the accident wasn't an accident,
Mm.
that his brother Dante has gotten in debt to some very dangerous criminals. And as the book proceeds, Roman finds himself trying to extricate his family from this incredibly dangerous situation. But also, this family has a really deep, incredible tragedy that they've experienced. When they were kids, their mother disappeared,
Mm-hmm.
and no one knows what happened to her. And everybody in town thinks their dad killed
Yeah.
her because she was having an affair, and everyone know about it. And so this is a trauma that has affected them their whole
Yeah.
lives. It's affected the way they interact with each other and the way they interact with other people. And they all have different ways of coping with this trauma. Dante self-medicates. He's a party boy, likes to drink, likes to do recreational pharmaceuticals. Nevaeh unfortunately finds herself dating unavailable men.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one who holds the business together, holds the family together, has all that weight on her back. Roman lives this very hedonistic life down in Atlanta,
Doesn't he now?
which includes which includes visiting a dominatrix from time to time. And so these children, these siblings, the way that they interact with each other is very colored by this trauma, this tragedy that sets them apart from each other, but also binds them together.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the book is really about family. It's a crime story. Obviously, it was a little bit inspired. I wanted to tell a sort of my version of the Michael Corleone story.
Mm.
This idea that what if you find out that you're really good at something bad? And Roman finds out that he's really good at
Yeah.
being a criminal. And but more than that, what's the deeper subtext for me is it's the stories we tell ourselves as families. About the roles that we give each other and give ourselves. Sometimes roles that we don't want.
Yes.
And Roman feels like he has to be the hold the family together. Nevaeh's like, I'm already doing that. And Dante doesn't want to deal with reality. And so at the end of the day, it's a story about family, but it's also a story about truth, the nature of truth, the nature of lies, and what it means to be a sibling, what it means to be, nobody knows you the way somebody who shared a womb
Yeah.
with you knows you.
Yeah. And so, how would you describe like the development of the characters coming from All the Sinners Bleeds to this? I mean, how do you weave
Wow.
them
Yeah.
together?
So All the Sinners Bleed is more my idea of a hero's journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Titus is a hero, but he's a knight with damaged armor, and like I like to say, a knight with unblemished armor is a knight who hasn't been tested. And
Mm-hmm.
Poor Titus has been
Yes.
tested a lot. Titus is a straight up hero. He's the good guy, and like I like to say, he's got the broad shoulders to carry that weight. Um, with Sinners, with King of Ashes, it's more complex. Roman is telling himself he's the good guy,
Yeah.
but he keeps finding himself doing darker and darker things in service of rescuing or saving his family. He keeps justifying and compartmentalizing things that, and eventually, he comes to a line that maybe he can't come back from. With Nevaeh, she's someone that I really care about as a character, but she's also someone who I think a lot of people can identify with. She's the one, like I said, is holding his family together. She's the one that sacrificed everything to keep the
Yeah.
business going, to keep the family going. And so she's complex. In the book, she's involved in an affair. She's dating a married man, and she knows it's not right, but at the same time, you know, she wants that human touch, that
Yeah.
human connection. And she is someone who is very complex about right and wrong, and what she's doing is right and what she's doing is wrong. And Dante is a lost soul. I know a lot of people like Dante who
Mm-hmm.
they want to do good. They try to do good, but they just keep, two steps forward, three steps back. And so these characters are much more morally gray than Titus. They have more in common with my characters like in Blacktop Wasteland and Razor Blade than say with Titus and All the Sinners. But I think that complexity, I hope, will draw people to them because at the end of the day, Roman he does some really bad things, but you cannot doubt that he loves his family. He
Yeah.
loves them. He'll do anything for them. He says a lot in the book. It's us three, and I choose us all the time. But at
What
the same
I
time,
found
you
interesting
know,
too. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
oh no, I was just gonna say at the same time, we lie to ourselves when we think we're doing the right thing. We lie to ourselves in pursuit of the greater good. And Roman is very good at lying to himself.
Yeah. And let's talk about what were their names? I had it written down. The
Oh,
people that,
Torn and
yeah,
Tranquil.
yeah. So I've noticed in this story that it's a younger group of people, right?
hmm
They're
hmm
younger, right? And I'm thinking
hmm
that, did you go this route with the characters to draw in more younger readers, or just because it is something that I think
No,
that younger readers will definitely resonate with as well. Not to say it's not for the people my age or whatever. Everyone's gonna love this book, trust me, because they're gonna love it. But I was just curious about that because you
yeah,
described
I wanted to.
that age group down to a T, like to a science.
Thank you. I wanted to use younger characters because I wanted to see people who are not as set in their ways, set in their path. I wanted to see characters who maybe had an opportunity to change and grow in a way, when we're older folks, we're already, we know what we like, we don't like, we know what we're gonna do, we ain't gonna do. And I wanted to use younger characters to sort of delve into that idea of like you're still growing, you're still like everybody in the book, all the main characters are under 35.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to show these characters that you're still learning, you're still growing, and give them a chance to change, give them a chance to maybe, they're not Ike and Buddy Lee. Ike and Buddy Lee are in their 50s. They're set in their ways,
Yes.
that this is who they are. What you see is what you get. But with Roman and Dante and Dante's girlfriend Jealousy and Nevaeh and even Torn and Tranquil, I wanted to talk about these characters in a way to maybe give them the idea, give the hope that they could change. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them stay exactly the same, but I wanted to sort of look into that sort of younger generation and sort of remember how I was when I was that age.
You know what? And I always say this, and I'm sure you're going to resonate with this, but it's in the society, in the world that we live in, all too often, young Black boys don't get the opportunity to have the second chance or make a change, right? They don't get
Exactly.
afforded those things, as other people, because
Exactly.
they could do something. Boys being boys does not apply to young Black boys.
Not at all. Not
Yeah,
at all. We don't get the benefit of that doubt. We don't
exactly.
get the benefit of that doubt. And so like with Torn and Tranquil, they're the bad guys. They're evil, But
They are evil.
I wanted to draw a parallel between Torrent, Tranquil, and Jealousy and Roman, Dante, and Nevaeh. Because even though those two brothers can be evil, they can be really evil, but they love each other.
Hmm.
They love each other. You can tell that they care about each other. They care about each other in a way that is born out of tragedy, out of trauma, in a way that's almost similar, the mirror image of Roman and Dante in a way. And it was very interesting to me to sort of create that dynamic between them. Don't get it twisted. Like I said, Tori and Tranquil are
I,
bad dudes. They're
I mean,
bad. They're
Casey
just
said in
bad as
here,
I don't know
Casey
what.
Kelly said they are incredibly evil.
Yes, yes. But even evil people, even bad men love their mamas. Even bad men love their brothers. And so I wanted to sort of show that as well. But they ain't the kind of people you want to cross at all. But for me, that younger generation, it really was important to talk about that because I think even though they're all adults in the book, they still make decisions sort of based on that stagnation that in their mind that they're adults, but in many ways they're still broken children. Roman and Dante and Nevaeh are definitely broken on the inside, and even though outwardly they're adults, there's a part of them that are still a part of them that hasn't progressed past the day their mom went
Their
missing.
mom, yeah,
you know yeah.
yep,
There's a scene in the book toward the end where Torrent is talking to Roman about his father. And there's a character in the book. I don't want to give it away, but there's a
yes,
character in the book who's appeared in some of my other books that makes an appearance. And Roman is talking to Torrent. He says, "Oh, well, that's a family friend." And Torrent kind of looks at him. He's like, "No, he's the devil. The devil ain't got no friends." And it's this idea that maybe if Torrent and Tranquil had another chance, they could have gone another way. And I
hmm,
wanted to give that glimpse into who they were, that sort of their journey was predestined for them. And they didn't get that, like you said, that second chance
right,
to change, to grow. And so that was important for me too. So but yeah, it's about family. The book is all about family. And again, the bonds that family creates. I have a brother and I love my brother to death. I'd do anything for him, literally
hmm,
anything. I don't think anybody can shake that. You can't understand that bond if you don't have a sibling. You know,
yes,
like my brother taught me how to tie my shoes because my mom was disabled and she couldn't walk and she could only use one hand. And my brother taught me how to tie my shoes. My brother used to make me. I get choked up thinking about it. We were really poor.
oh, you finna
We
make
were
me
growing
cry.
up, and and so he used to heat up glazed donuts in a toaster oven for me in the morning. We had to walk out to the school bus, But at the same time, he's had difficulties in his life. He's had problems in his life. But that's my dude.
Yeah,
I do anything for him. So I wanted to share that in the book. I wanted people to feel that in the book, and I hope that people will.
I'm sure they will. I mean, your writing is incredible. I'm so glad you didn't give up. Like, I'm very thankful that you did not give up. I mean, just even when I met you at Thriller Fest, I thought like, okay, I'm gonna go up to this man and I don't know how he's gonna react because, but you are just so warm. You have such a great spirit. Even when you came to DC, we went and had a drink. I mean, it's just like you are just such a kind-hearted person, and these are the things that you want to happen for someone of your character. I mean,
Oh,
I'm so happy for
thank you
you.
so much.
Um,
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You talk about not giving up. I think it was spite that kept me going.
well, that can
I
keep.
think I could do all things through spite that strengthened me. But I think
Oh my God.
But I mean, in a serious note, though,
Um,
I think as a writer, you got to have a little bit of egotism. You got to think I have something worth listening to. I have something to say that people should hear, and that sort of sustained me. I didn't like. I'm gonna be like, full transparency. I never thought this would happen. But I knew I would get published because I just wasn't going to quit.
mhm.
I had nothing to lose by keep writing, and I was going to keep sending stories out, keep sending books out. I was just going to, I was going to be a bad penny that kept turning up. But then to have the sort of level of success that I've had, I am so grateful. I am so blessed with that. I do a lot of book signings and I'll do signings. I stay over a lot Like the book sign will be like an hour. I'll stay an hour and 30 minutes. Because for me, people that come, I come from a very blue collar background. So for somebody to plunk down $28 to get a hardcover copy of one of my books, I'm gonna sign it. I owe
Yeah.
you that. Because you ain't gonna come to
Yeah.
I don't mail it in. You ain't gonna come to an S.A. Cosby book and be like, it's all right. No, I give you
Yeah.
110%. And so I'm grateful when people want me to sign the book. I'm grateful to stop and take a picture. I'm grateful to talk to somebody who wants to talk about the book because it's the best job in the world, man. Writing, telling stories. You don't get no better than that. And so I'm very grateful. I am so honored when people tell me they've read the book or it means something to them or it moved them. I think at the end of the day, look, I do this for a living. Of course, I want to make money. Obviously, we all
Yeah.
want, people that
Yeah.
tell you money don't buy you happiness, but it sure can rent it for a while. But but really, at the end of the day, I'm happy that people connect with
Yeah.
my books. I'm gonna quote Stephen King again. He said, writing is a form of telepathy. When people read your books, they're reading your mind. And that's incredible for me. And for people to connect with the books the way they do,
Yeah.
it's the best feeling in the world, man.
I remember when I saw his comment on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh, Stephen King is talking about you, sir." Stephen King.
I'm gonna tell you the coolest thing about this journey that I've been on is that a lot of my writing heroes are still alive, and I've gotten to meet them. Haven't met Stephen King yet. I'm crossing my fingers that happens this year. But like, I've met Walter Mosley. I've had
Yes.
drinks with Walter Mosley. I've had drinks with Dennis Lehane. I've hung out with Michael Connelly. I've met Jessamine Ward. I've had dinner with like not Sue Grafton, but with Jennifer
Yeah.
Hillier, who's a great writer and a friend of mine. Jordan Harper, who was a fan. I was a fan before I met him. People like that. So I've gotten to meet these people that I admire, people I grew up, or maybe not grew up, but people I've read their books, and they in turn consider me a colleague.
Yeah.
I was at BoucherCon last year in Nashville, and I was walking through the hotel lobby, and Harlan Coben and Dennis Lehane was sitting at a table having a drink, and I walked by them. I just waved. I wasn't going to disturb them, and they were like, "No, come over, let's have a drink." And so I sat down with them, and we sat, and they I ain't gonna lie, Dennis Lehane and Harlan Coben got me drunk. I was tipsy as hell when we left out of there, but um, but I'm sitting there and I'm talking to these guys who, Dennis will tell you he's only 8 years older than me, so he's like I'm not your mentor. We're colleagues, but we're contemporaries. But I'm sitting there thinking like, what is my life right now that I'm sitting here with these folks? I've had the opportunity to have dinner with Walter Mosley 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting across from the guy who created Easy Rawlins, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, crime writer living
Yeah.
today. And it's like, for me, that's an incredible
But
honor,
then they too
and
are going
I
to tell people that they sat down with you. Let's not
they might, I
think
don't
that they
know.
don't. So
But no, it's just
before I let you go, I mean, I people in the comments have been saying that I've thought it. I think you and I have talked about it, but they want to know what happened to the man that let you go.
so about 2 years ago, I was nominated for an Edgar Award for Razorblade Tears. I got to go to New York City for the Mystery Writers Association of America award ceremony. I didn't win, but that's fine. It's an honor to be nominated. So I'm in the bar, and the guy, I'm not gonna say his name, but he's there. He comes up to me. He said, "Hey, how's it going?" And I was like, "I'm good. Good to see you." We shook hands. He paused for a second. And he says, "Yes, I made a mistake. Can I buy you a
Yeah.
drink to apologize?" I said, "No, you don't got to do that." But he bought me a drink. I accepted the drink. We're all good. He's a gentleman. He's a wonderful guy. Just it wasn't what it was meant to be. It wasn't
Yeah.
meant to be with him as my rep. And he's never been nothing but supportive of me ever since. Every milestone I get, he sends me a really nice email. And so I have no ill will toward him. I have no bitterness toward him. Some of the editors that rejected me, yeah, got a little bitterness toward them. But
I I know they
but
hated
him, no,
him.
he's a oh
Yeah.
yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. I'll tell you real quick. So when Blacktop Wasteland was getting ready to be shopped around, it went up for what we call auction in the publishing business. And so there were 5 publishers in the auction, right? That said they were going to bid on it. The day of the auction, 3 of them dropped out. 3 of them dropped out. And I was just convinced this book is not going to sell. Nobody's going to want it. one of the editors from one of the publishers that dropped out called me and he says, I want you to know this was not my decision. I want this book. And I told my bosses in a year, they are going to regret this. They're going to regret this more than they've regretted any decision they've made in the past 10 years. Follow up, year comes out, book comes out, Blackout Wasteland is nominated for LA Town Book Award, it wins. It nominated for ITW Award, it wins. It wins the, all these different awards, and it's on these short lists and long lists. That guy, who's not even in the publishing business anymore, called me. And I picked up the phone. I was like, hello? He says, I told him. And he hung up. That was it.
Listen, I'm telling you, it's all good things. Um, Casey has a question.
Okay.
Is there a parallel to Omar from The Wire with the brothers, or did she imagine that?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. Tranquil and Torrent. I would say this though, it's more a parallel with and people that love The Wire. It's more parallel with Damon Barksdale and his associates, because Omar has more of a code than Torrent and Tranquil.
Mm-hmm.
Omar has a code. If anything, I would say Khalil is a
Like String
parallel
of
to
Bells.
Omar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. And so you have a book coming out. I have to ask what's next. And then what are you reading? And then we're going to let you get on about your evening.
Okay, so what next? I am actually deciding what I'm going to write next. I'm having talks with my agent because I have two ideas, and I haven't made up my mind yet what I'm going to do. Both of them are pretty good ideas. I'll tell you what. I'll give you all a little glimpse into my process. So,
Yes,
one of
please.
the ideas is a possible, and I want people to hear me when I say possible because I haven't made up my mind yet. A possible prequel to All Sinners Bleed about Bug's father, Anthony.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so, what happened? What his life was like before he had Bug, and what made him the person he was. And so, I have an idea about that. That would start in Virginia, but would mainly take place in Los Angeles. And I had some ideas about that in the '90s. So I have an idea about that. And then the other idea that I'm ruminating on is about two best friends, uh, an artist and a hitman, who are best friends, been best friends since they were kids, and they're trying to maintain their friendship as adults. And so every year they go on a fishing trip, and they're on this fishing trip, and they get a call from a lady that they both knew back in the day, and she says, "I need you to help me find my son. He's gone missing. Oh, by the way, one of you might be the father." And so that's the other idea, and it's a story about men and male friendships and how they exist and how they sometimes fade away. So those are the two ideas I'm debating on. I haven't made up my mind yet. So I'm still
Say the
I'm
first
talking with
one.
my agent. All right, between
Only
us, don't
because
tell nobody.
I say the
I
first
kind of
one
want to do the first one
because
too.
we need number one. We need number one because oh, oh my goodness, it's going to make it bring everything full circle.
Yeah. I would love to go back to that world. And I tell you the truth, I have a whole idea in the back of my mind about writing a whole family history of Bug's family, of the Montage family, and starting in the 20s with rum runners and moonshiners and going into a sequel. But that's further on down the road. But that's the stuff I'm ruminating on. I'm still thinking about it. What I'm reading currently,
Yes.
I just finished. It came out today, but I had an early copy. There's a book called The Saint of Narrow Streets by William Boyle. It's an amazing novel set in Brooklyn in the 80s, with a family, an Italian family, that has a deep, dark secret that basically casts a shadow over their lives for 20 years. William Boyle, for folks that don't know, is one of the most underrated writers in America right now. I think he's like a modern day Charles Dickens with a little dash of Raymond Chandler thrown in. I love his work. I've met him. He's a good friend of mine, but I wouldn't say that just because he's a friend. I think that book is amazing. Anybody that's is interested in really great literary crime fiction should read William Boyle. Also, I just finished Mia Montesala's most latest book in her in her series about the Filipino family that owns a restaurant that also solves mysteries. All those books are amazing. I love Mia's work. I think she's an incredible writer and a really great person. So that's what I've been reading lately. So
Wow. Okay. I just looked up William Boyle, so I got that tagged on my thing. I can't say enough good things. I thank you so much. Like I said, I've taken a break from literary wind down, but for you to say yes and come back and kick off with me, I so appreciate it. We look forward to everything that you do. You guys, there's a link down there. You can pre-order King of Ashes now, so you can have it when it lands. What's the date? June 10th?
June 10th,
June
my
10th.
mama's birthday, June 10th.
On your
Yeah.
birthday. Okay,
My
y'all, you'll be
mama's
very
birthday, my deceased mama's birthday. So I
your
think that's
mama's birthday. Okay.
serendipity.
Serendipity.
Yeah, yeah,
So you guys, we
yeah.
gotta go all in for Sean on June 10th. Make sure y'all pre-order, and hopefully you'll come to DC so I can see you and we can celebrate.
I would love to. I love to. We had so much fun on my
We
last tour, so I hope I make a stop up in
I hope
DC,
so.
up in Chocolate City,
Yes,
as
sir.
Chris Rock would say.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
guys. Thank everybody for tuning in. This is so much fun. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you so much. You're the epitome of black don't crack. I love it.
Thank you. Take care.